Straight from New Jersey, it's the SNL Nerds, the show where two comics from New Jersey nerd out over Saturday Night Live. I'm your co-host, John Trumbull.
And I'm your co-host, Darren Chadwick.
Hey, Darren.
John, you're in the studio today.
I am in the studio. I had some technical difficulties on my end, and after we messed around with it on with super producer Frank Kablawi, thank you, Frank, I finally decided, you know what, the best solution would be for me to go into the SNL Nerd studio for the first time since March.
Yeah. How did it feel, man? Did it feel like going back to your old high school? Is it all how you remember it? Like,
it feels a little weird. I'm the only one in the room. I understand like a couple other people have been recording here. And there are little covers on all the microphones. So we've got like little microphone condoms on.
Yeah.
And
that made that sound more vile than I needed to.
You sounded like you were turned on by the microphone condom.
Keep talking about the microphone stuff.
And I'm masked up. I gloved up. Yeah. So that's where I am. And you're at home as per usual now.
As per usual. Yeah. Still at home. Still broadcasting from my bedroom. You know, just keeping it funky, keeping it fly.
Yeah, we just figured it out before we started recording. Because, like I said, I haven't been in the studio since March. Darren still hasn't been in the studio since March, and I was trying to think, like, well, what number episode was it where the last time we were here? And it was the Daniel Craig episode 75. And since we just passed episode 100, we have now recorded 1/4 of this podcast in quarantine.
That is depressing. Once we crunched the numbers and did the math on that, I was like, oh wow, this is
yeah.
I mean, remember when we kind of thought this would just kind of go away like after a couple of months? And
remember when we thought this was like be a few weeks or a few months, and now it's I mean, sadly, just no end in sight. I hate to say it, but there doesn't really seem to be an end in sight because, there isn't a plan, because we don't have leadership and we live in a hellscape, yada, yada, yada.
Right. You've heard our spiel about the hellscape and just the big old mess we're in. So you guys know, I
mean, we're only like 60 something days away from the election. Right?
Yeah, this is. I mean, have you figured out how you're going to vote? Are you doing the mail-in? Are you going to in person?
I don't have my exact voting plan in place yet. I'm going back and forth. Like, should I do in person? Should I do mail-in voting? What are you doing? I don't know.
I think I'm probably going to do the mail-in. Like, from what I remember, like the last time we voted earlier this year, they gave us mail-in ballots. I think I forget what it was for, but like we filled out the mail-in ballots, and because earlier this year there were no voting booths. They just said, you have to fill it out and drop it off in like a the safety mail drop box,
right,
in Montclair. So we drove over there, dropped it off, and it was pretty simple. So I'm imagining they're doing the same thing in 60 days. So we'll probably go that route.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect I'm probably going to get something in the mail because, like, thinking back on it, I did vote by mail in the primary, but New Jersey's one of those states where our primary is so late that it doesn't make a great deal of difference. I hate to say it, but I mean, it's just how it is.
But we still got to rock the vote, man. It's vote or die. Puffy said that.
Oh no, absolutely. Do not get me wrong. I am voting no matter what. I mean. I am, and so should everyone listening to this.
Oh dear God, please! Now more than ever.
A Trump supporter, in which case, no, you should not vote. You should go fuck yourself.
Damn! Wow, you're getting political.
Hey, look, I'm not putting up any pretense anymore.
No.
We've had nearly 6 months of a pandemic. Okay.
Wow, no more Mr. Nice Guy.
If you're planning to vote for Trump, go fuck yourself. And I don't want you listening to this podcast.
Co-sign. I'll co-sign on that.
Okay. So
Wow, this episode got off to a crazy start.
yeah.
All right.
We're also doing kind of an unusual episode this week because last week sadly Chadwick Boseman unexpectedly passed away, and we all found out that he had been fighting cancer for the last 4 years of his life, I believe it was.
Yeah, he'd been diagnosed with colon cancer back in 2016, and
Yeah.
I think I mentioned on the last episode, like how did he keep this a secret? Because like
It-
no one knew. Like Ryan Coogler talked about it, he had no idea. Like
yeah.
people that Chadwick worked with, no one knew, and he was just keeping it and trying to fight it as long as he could. And yeah, it was a shocking surprise. A week ago, like he passed away from colon cancer, and
Yeah, and it was when he was such a young guy, and the news broke like it was late on a Sunday. So honestly, my first thought was like, oh shit, did somebody hack his Twitter account and break this horrible story in such bad taste? But it sadly was the real deal.
yeah, like I think I found out on I think it was a Friday actually, because
Okay, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
days have no meaning anymore. So
yeah,
who knows?
days, weeks, months, it's all one big Monday.
Yeah.
But yeah, like because I remember it was on a Friday, and I was like kind of flipping through TV, kind of bored, and I was thinking about watching a Marvel movie, and
Hmm.
like so I just went to Disney Plus, and I contemplated watching Black Panther again, but I was like, I've seen it a bunch of times, so I just went to like think of Lin on Ant-Man and the Wasp, and
Mm.
yeah, it's a random one, and my wife was
No,
on
but I mean, it's still a fine choice. It's still
yeah.
a wonderfully entertaining movie. I would even say like one of the underrated Marvel movies.
Oh
Uh,
wow, I'm with
yeah,
you. Yeah, we saw it in the theater back when we could watch.
I know that was a thing we would do is we would get together with our good friend Matt Jenkins and a few other people and we would go see the Marvel movies. That was the thing we would do every few months.
Oh,
And
oh, John, were we ever so young?
no, no, we were not. We've always been like 200.
We were born old.
We were born old. But so I mean, when this horrible news broke, Darren and I, it turns out we both had the same thought, and it was like, oh well, we should share the episode of SNL Nerds that where we talked about when Chadwick Boseman hosted, and so we tried to find which episode that was, and when I was searching through our old episodes, it was just coming up Avengers host, and I was like, no, we talked about when Chadwick Boseman hosted, didn't we? I mean, surely we did. And then we looked it up, and he actually hosted on April 7th, 2018, which was before we started this podcast. We started this podcast in October of 2018. So this was back in the days when we would just comment about the episode on Facebook.
That's right. The olden days of just talking about and complaining about SNL through the Facebook chats. Now
Yeah,
we talk about it and complain about it through microphones.
exactly. I think complaining about SNL through Facebook that's how Amish people would comment on SNL. Uh, so we decided, okay, well, since we never officially did this on the podcast, I think we talked about the Black Panther Black Jeopardy sketch on our 2-part Avengers hosts episode, and but so yeah, we decided to do the whole thing, and then last night we find out SNL decided to re-air the Chadwick Boseman episode in full, so we didn't even have to go to Hulu.
That's right. Somehow the people in SNL were thinking the same thing we were thinking, or maybe they listened to the podcast and be like, you know what? Let's help these guys out. And boom, they put it on 11:30 last night for us to watch and enjoy.
Because there's obviously no other way they could have hit on that idea.
No, I don't see how. They obviously got the idea from us. We're that influential.
Right. I looked up the details on the episode. This was, as I said, from April 7th, 2018. Chadwick Boseman hosting with Cardi B musical guesting. This was season 43, episode 17, and this was the 846th episode of Saturday Night Live overall.
Ooh, yeah, like I remember like when watching this episode, like when they're introducing the cast members, like Leslie Jones is still here in this season. Luke Null is still a cast member. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that
I
guy.
think I missed him in the beginning. Did he pop up in the show at all? I don't remember seeing him.
I don't believe so. No, he was just there in opening credits only.
Oh, that's the saddest SNL character of all, is guy who doesn't appear in sketches but waves goodnight at the end of the show.
Yeah, I know. Oh, Luke. I don't think he ever got a kind of a fair shake. I've heard like a lot of people who really are big fans of Luke Null and what he can do, and they all kind of agree like SNL. They never gave him a shot, basically, which is
Yeah, I mean that just happens every once in a while. There's just the cast member who, for whatever reason, just doesn't make their mark on the show, and it's too bad, because maybe under different circumstances they could have worked out great. But
yeah.
um, but I also thought, for fun, I would look up the old Facebook profile, or the Facebook post where we both commented on this show when it first aired. So we basically would just live comment on Facebook about SNL. And, occasionally other people would chime in, but it would mostly be Darren and me. I mean, it got to the point where I would just tag you when I was getting ready to comment on Facebook, because you were just there every single week. And I was like, okay, Darren's into this too. Cool.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
he's got cool, funny stuff to say. Yeah.
yeah.
All
I'm
right.
hilarious.
And this was apparently an eventful day for both of us, because I went to a comic convention in Atlantic City that day, and you were getting drunk at a wedding in Tribeca. So,
Oh yes, I was. Okay, I remember this. Yes, I was.
so this was one of those awkward weeks where I started commenting on it without you, because you weren't home yet at 11:30, and then you burst into the thread halfway through like the Kool-Aid Man. Um,
I can't wait to read this.
yeah. That's you actually your comment is like, burst into Facebook thread live from New York. It's Saturday. Violently vomits onto self. And then I just said, just in time for the mediocre second half, because I think by the time you came in, it was after Weekend Update. So
Oh
after,
really? Shit.
yeah.
Oh,
So
must have been a great wedding.
you had a good time. You had a good time, apparently. And later in the thread, you just comment like, I don't know, I'm so drunk. and and
I wonder who got married.
and I was drinking as well. So, well, I was wondering if you'd remembered that.
I mean, if it was in Tribeca, it might have been
2
my
years
buddy
ago,
Neil.
Tribeca.
I think it was my buddy
28th.
Neil.
Okay.
But
Neil, if you're listening, Darren doesn't remember for sure if this was your wedding or not. Just so you know.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's fine.
Just so you know, Neil.
Hi, Neil.
Okay, should we dive in?
Let's dive in. I can't wait to read these old comments. This is down memory lane.
Okay, so we had a cold open with Fox News, a show called Outnumbered, with Leslie Jones as the host of the Fox News show. I don't remember which Fox News host she was playing. I'm assuming Fox News has some black host.
I think they had the one.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine them having more than the one.
As far as Fox goes, yeah, more than one, and it's like that's too much. Basically, it's going to be like Soul Train.
I mean, you just need the one person you can point to and say, see, we're not racist because X person works here.
Yeah. Oh, Harris Faulkner, I think.
Okay.
That's who she was playing, Harris Faulkner.
You could have said literally any name, and I would have just been like,
okay. Yeah, she plays Cleveland Samsonite.
Yeah, all right. That sounds convincing. Sure. So she's talking about a Donald Trump press conference with leaders of the Baltic states. So we had Alec Baldwin appearing as Donald Trump. He comes out and he says, congratulations to Vladimir Putin. And we get a little of Trump's inner monologue as the other people are talking. So,
yeah, I mean, at this point, was this around the time where people were getting sick of Baldwin as Trump? Because, like, I think I'm trying to figure out when.
My first comment in my Facebook thread was, I may be getting a bit tired of Alec Baldwin as Trump.
Okay, like I didn't know if you meant that for real or you were like big ironic, because like I know there was a tipping point where like the novelty had worn off, and
Yeah.
at some point it was just like, oh, it's him again.
I mean, because by this point, he'd been doing it since the run up to the 2016 election. So he'd been doing it for probably around 2 years by this point. So, yeah, the bloom was kind of off the rose.
Yeah, like I mean, I remember. After rewatching it, I was like, oh, this is just like more of him kind of riffing. A lot of the jokes weren't terribly funny, and him riffing off of them being like from the Baltics and calling them
Mhm.
like they're from like Transylvania or something. Like there were a lot of weak jokes I thought were in this
Yeah,
cold open.
not the strongest sketch. There were a couple lines that amused me, where Trump's like saying to himself, "Don't say congratulations to Vladimir Putin. Don't say congratulations to Vladimir Putin." And then, of course, the first thing he does is say congratulations to Vladimir Putin because Trump is in the pocket of Vladimir Putin.
Yes.
Did I say
Oh,
fuck you to Trump voters? It bears repeating.
yeah, you're really wow. You're drawing a line in the sand, my friend, and I am here for it.
I am. Let's see. He talked about. He said that how he liked Roseanne because I guess this was after the. I guess the racist Roseanne story had broken by this point.
Yeah, I believe so. And of course, they mentioned the caravan of immigrants, which was a thing. Which
That
I
was a
guess
big story. That was a big story, and then that just went away.
yeah, like
Um,
what happened to the caravan? I thought they were on their way. I guess.
yeah, I remember that was when that was the big threat. That was and that was
Yeah.
why he wanted to build the wall. And I mean, I don't know. Saying this is a nostalgia trip, it seems like the wrong term for it, but you were like watching this, I was just kind of like, oh yeah, I remember this. I remember when this was a thing.
Yeah, like this was the outrage of the day, the outrage du
Yeah,
jour, as it were.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So he had the line, he likes Roseanne. Roseanne is like a good Rosie O'Donnell because Trump has the big feud with Rosie O'Donnell, or
right.
he had. I don't know if that's still a thing. I guess it's still a thing.
I think
Uh,
that feud will never end.
right, right.
That bridge is
Uh,
burning bright.
and he also says he doesn't like Amazon's Jeff Bezos because Jeff Bezos admits to being bald, so I feel threatened on two levels.
Oh yeah,
I,
he's richer. He's way
yeah,
richer than him, and yeah,
yeah, that was it. That was it. I didn't write down what the other level was, but I like the threatened by two levels.
yeah, and yeah. I mean, that's kind of. I mean, the sketch kind of goes on from there. It doesn't. It doesn't really go. It kind of meanders a little bit too.
Yeah,
Like it
yeah. I mean,
doesn't really have any
this is one of
direction.
those things where it was just like, oh, we have to do a thing on this because this was in the news this week.
Yeah, it's just like them bringing up what, like you said, what just happened. Um, you know, they don't just. I mean, I think that's the thing about these cold opens. It's like it just doesn't go anywhere. It just kind of like the way I'm talking now, but like it just kind of meanders and meanders and meanders, and it just kind of ends on a flat note. It's like, oh,
Yeah, again, you're talking about the sketch and not this podcast in general, right?
can it be both?
Okay, it can be both things. It can be both things. So next we had the monologue. We had the monologue with our host Chadwick Boseman. Came out in a very colorful ensemble.
Oh my god, he had an amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Yeah, he was. I mean, it was quite a look. It was quite a look. But I mean, he pulled it off.
That's something I could not do. It was like a long kind of trench coat, but it was like a patchwork looking thing. It was like popping bright with colors.
Yeah,
and it was just like like a very confident man can only pull that off. Not me.
yeah. I mean, he had it going on, man. I mean, he's just had a lot of charisma. And he talks about how he's hosting SNL only 2 months after Black Panther came out, and Black Panther, as I'm sure you remember, that I mean that became a phenomenon. I mean it exceeded everybody's expectations.
Yeah, like that. I mean, well, we watched it together. That's another movie we watched together. We watch a lot of movies together, ladies and gentlemen.
We do.
But I remember actually before we saw it, because we saw it like on Saturday afternoon that weekend it came out, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Like the wife and I, like we really couldn't wait, so we saw it that like Thursday night.
And, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, in Secaucus or Secaucus, however you say it. And like I remember, like after we watched it, we were both kind of stunned. We were just like, that was because like we both had the same feeling. Like, wow, we saw something really like original, like something we'd never seen before. Like we just saw
Mhm.
some new shit, and we were just like, wow, we cannot wait to see that again and again and again. And yeah, that I mean, Black Panther was like really just fucking just historic.
I mean, your wife ended up seeing it something like 7 times in its first theatrical run, wasn't it like that?
Yeah, yeah, like she saw it. I mean, we saw it twice, and then I think she saw it with some other friends, and yeah, it was about 6 or 7 times. Like she was about it, as the people in the street say.
Yeah, I mean, could you talk a little about that? About like what made Black Panther so meaningful to like you as a black man or the black community in general? Because I mean, I don't want this to be like just a white dude being like, "Well, here's why Black Panther was cool." I mean, I want to just hear it from you in your words.
All right. Well, I mean, there's like a number of reasons. I mean, it was like a film about where it's a predominantly black cast. I
Mhm.
mean, the film only had like two white characters with lines, really. I
Right.
mean, there was a few other white people here and there, but like they had like bit characters. So, I mean, it was kind of like the inverse of every other superhero or every other movie we've seen, where it's predominantly white people and like one or two black people. It's like this was the inverse of that.
Hmm.
And I mean, if you look into that movie again, there's like a lot of interesting themes about like how the relationship between Africans and African Americans, the haves and have-nots, and like what does a person who has a lot of wealth or a country that has a lot of wealth, what do they owe the rest of the world, and people who don't have what they have, like do they should they get involved in other people's affairs, or do they just stay away? Because at one point in the movie, I think it was Wakabi, T'Challa's friend, saying, "Well, if we reach out to other places, parts of the world, they bring their problems with them, and then Wakanda, which is special, is just like every other place." So like it brings
Hmm.
that dynamic into it a lot. I mean, the fact that Black Panther is a man who is like surrounded and helped by women is a big
Mm,
deal too. Like a lot of people
yeah.
say, like if you really look at it, Black Panther is more of a feminist movie than maybe even Wonder Woman, because he was a guy who I mean, he saves the day at the end, but he wouldn't have saved the day if it wasn't for the help of all these women around him, like his sister, his mom,
Hmm.
Okoye, the whole Dora Milaje,
Right.
Lupita Nyong'o's character. Like he's literally surrounded by women helping him, and he's fine with it. They're all equal to him. It's not a big deal. So
Right.
I mean,
Yeah. I
that's
mean, and
another dynamic to it too.
it's never even mentioned or commented on in the movie. It's just like this is how it is. You know.
Right, exactly.
I mean, and the
And
movie never like pats itself on the back and be like, she's a woman and she can do everything just as well as I can as a man. No, it's just, yeah, it's not even questioned. Yeah, that's a great point, and it really is more of an ensemble movie than we think of it. You know.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember when the movie came out, a lot of people were saying, "Yeah, Black Panther's good, but these other characters are amazing." I mean,
Hmm.
everybody was all about Killmonger. Everybody,
Hmm.
Shuri's an amazing character. Lupita Nyong'o's character, Nakia. That's it. I
Hmm.
just remember. My wife loved Okoye. She thought she was the best character in the
Hmm.
film, and even M'Baku is an amazing character. Like I mean, Chadwick Boseman was an amazing actor, and he was a great T'Challa. But like every other character was also amazing, and so like all of them really bolstered this movie and just brought it up to new heights.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, I remember a line that really struck me, like towards the end of the movie, was at the end where Killmonger is, well, spoilers for Black Panther if you haven't seen it, but come on, it's been 2.5 years, um, uh, where or 3 years, I guess,
Oh wow,
where
yeah,
yeah, Killmonger says, like bury me with my ancestors in the ocean because they knew that was better than a life of slavery, and you just
yeah.
like, oh, whoa. I mean,
I did,
that
yeah. I did not expect like a Marvel movie to be that deep and say like some real shit like that. I was like,
that is
Jesus.
yeah, that is not a line you expect to hear in a summer blockbuster type movie. And apparently, when I guess it was Ryan Coogler when he had on that line, the people at Marvel were like, "We need to rewrite this movie with using that as like one of the central lines. Like we need to. That's our key into this character's point of view, and I mean, yeah, that just blew me away when I first saw the movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of layers, and there's like a lot of issues being brought up in this in Black Panther that like it was just a lot more deeper and a lot more had a lot more heft to it, I guess, than
Mm-hmm.
I expected a blockbuster movie to have. A lot more layers to it, a lot more like like I mean, it was one of those movies where after people watched it, there was like discussions about it. Like people were having like
Mm-hmm.
really in depth, like serious talks about race and and the world and have and have nots and and things of that nature. And it was just like, I mean, I don't really remember like the last time a movie, let alone a comic book blockbuster movie was able to kind of bring up discussions like that. I mean, maybe you
Yeah.
could say The Dark Knight kind of did that,
Mhm.
Civil War a little bit, but I mean, Black Panther was just like, I don't think anybody saw it coming.
Yeah, I mean it generally is a culturally significant film, and it just obviously hit a nerve. I mean, I just remember even when we saw it, usually it would be about like half a dozen of us going to see the Marvel movies. I think for Black Panther, I think it was like 14 people in our group.
Yeah, we rolled deep.
We rolled deep because it was like our friend Matt Jenkins was like, oh, I'm coming with my fiance Amy's coming with my brother's coming with, my dad's coming with.
Yeah, Matt brought his dad, and it's like, wow, your dad's into these things too. And he's like, yeah, he like introduced me to all this stuff. I was like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
respect that, I respect
yeah.
that.
So I mean I think it really seemed to speak to the African American community, because it's just, I mean, it really is a powerful thing to see yourself reflected and represented on screen, you know.
Yeah, it was something that like a lot of us had never seen before. With the exception of maybe like Meteor Man or Blank Man or whatever, and
Uh-huh.
it was so like to see something like this, it was a big deal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and this was like, an A-list production all the way. It wasn't something like Blank Man or Meteor Man, or
Right.
even the Blade movies were a little more low
Yeah,
grade.
and everybody forgets about Blade. I should give Blade more props. That was my fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, for what I mean, Blade was important too. But I mean, compare Blade to Black Panther. I mean, there's no contest. Black Panther was just like another
Hmm.
level.
Yeah, yeah. So so yeah, so Boseman, in the monologue, he talks about how SNL is having him only 2 months after Black Panther came out, which was a nice kind of cutting line. Um, I thought. And but he also talked about part of the problem was that because Black Panther was so huge, SNL had done a lot of Black Panther things before he came on as host. And so they were just left with the lame ideas, he says.
Oh, right. That's when I was trying to think of ideas for what to have in sketches. Like,
Yeah, yeah. He said like, oh, they suggested the talk show Wake Up Wakanda, and then one where I have sex with Leslie Jones. That was a Leslie Jones pitch. And he said,
because Leslie Jones is horny.
she is horny. That was a big thing with her. And he said, Sterling K. Brown did a Black Panther sketch before me, and he's killed off in the first 5 minutes.
Whew. Spoiler.
But again, he's like, sorry about the spoilers, but you've had 2 months to see the movie.
Yeah, yeah, that's very true.
And Keenan comes out as Panthro from the Thundercats, and talking about how he's supposedly preceded the Black Panther, but then Chadwick Boseman accurately points out that Black Panther was created in 1966,
Ooh,
which
look at that.
that did my comic book geek heart proud. Uh, Jack
Yeah,
Kirby,
yeah, right. And I see you wrote down on in the old chat saying like he had on the great Thundercats costume.
yeah, yeah, he did. I mean, that looked like really accurate, and they they did a hell of a job on that. I mean,
Absolutely.
Keenan looked good. They didn't gray up all of his face, I guess, just for so Keenan could get made up for other sketches fairly quickly.
Uh,
But he looked really good,
I
and
thought what you were gonna say is like, oh, you didn't want it to be like gray face or anything like that.
Yeah, I mean that could be insulting to the gray community, to the gray humanoid cat Thundercat community, I guess.
Yeah, you want to be sensitive to these issues, my friend.
I guess, yeah. There's probably somebody out there who's rallying about proper Thundercat representation in the media.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, the cat frickin' American. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
I was interesting rewatching this because I didn't remember a whole lot of this episode outside of a sketch we're going to come up to in a minute. But
yeah, I mean the big one that we all remember was a black. Well, we'll get to it, the Black Jeopardy
yeah,
one. But yeah, like the same thing. I didn't really remember a lot of these sketches either.
yeah, like I mean, at the end, Chadwick Boseman, he starts doing like sort of a James Brown riff because he played James Brown in a biopic, and it was just kind of like a quick thing. He did just sort of a soft shuffle thing, and I kind of wanted him to do a full number as James Brown, man.
Yeah, that was a weird way to end it. It was just like a little. I mean, because like it started off with these little jokes to have about sketches, and then they go into Panthro, but then it ends with him kind of doing a little James Brown dance.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like they didn't know exactly what to do in the monologue, so they just put together a bunch of ideas and kind of smushed it together.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes that happens. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was fine. The monologue entertained me enough, so
Yeah, that was all right.
I enjoyed it. The purpose of the monologue is basically just to get you to kind of introduce you to the host in case you're not familiar with them and get you pumped up for the show. And I think this did that.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, next up we had a pre-tape. We had a commercial for Nike Pro Chiller leggings.
Yes, because and just kind of playing up the juxtaposition of what they sell leggings as. They sell them as this big athletic gear, and they always show people being super active and athletic in them. But most people just use them for like lounging around the house.
Yeah, so basically it has like Melissa Villaseñor, like in a gym clothes, and she's like punching in the ring, like like a fighter, like working out. Then it has Heidi Gardner working out, and because gym clothes, I push to the limit.
Yeah.
Quit is not an option. And then
Right.
they cut to 80 and Kate, wearing the same gym clothes and just like lounging on the couch and
Yeah.
eating paninis and on their laptops.
Because leggings can be pants, pajamas, and a napkin.
Yeah, because I'm tired from my nap.
Another line I liked was, "My Fitbit says I'm dead."
This sketch kind of tickled me personally because, like, the whole thing of wearing gym clothes and just to lie around the house and not, work out in them.
Yeah.
Like when this pandemic like kind of first started, and it looked like it would last to the summer. Like one of the first things I bought was the first thing I got was like gym shorts, like
Yeah.
like workout gym shorts. Not to work out in them per se, but just because I knew they'd be the most relaxing thing to lie around the house and watch TV on.
Yeah. And that's working out well for you?
Working out great, man. I got
That's
the one
great.
with pockets.
Ooh, that's the dream.
That's key. That
is key. I gotta get me some of those. Yeah.
Dude, I don't even remember the last time I wore pants.
But I thought this leggings thing, I thought it was cute enough when I watched it. But apparently the me of 2.5 years ago thought it was So
interesting.
Yeah, and then I went to the refrigerator to get a cider. So
okay. Yeah, and then you occurred to this. Oh, the new Infinity War trailer came out too.
I know. I was really excited about the Infinity War trailer. So.
Dun, 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 dun,
so next we have the big sketch. I'd say that this episode of SNL is remembered for Black Jeopardy with Chadwick Boseman playing T'Challa, the Black Panther.
Yeah, this was a surprise. I remember like when this originally came out, it did okay, but after Chadwick's passing, this kind of went viral again. It has like a resurgence in popularity. And it became like a big hit all over again.
Yeah. I think this was the big sketch that people remembered for it. And they have a really good batting average with the Black Jeopardy sketches. It seems to me. I mean, they've been very funny. They've been very memorable, and they occasionally even have like a good relevant point to make. You know?
Yeah, I mean, because that seems to be the main thing with the Black Jeopardy show, where they kind of like they're making a point about Black culture, but and so they have a message there, but at the same time they're not trying to be preachy about it or to shove it down your throat. So just kind of have fun with it.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to make a point, especially in like a comedy sketch, is where you just kind of sneak it in there under the laugh. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had some good lines like, welcome to Black Jeopardy, the only Jeopardy where our prize money is paid in installments.
Oh dear.
But I mean, here they're basically just playing up the contrast between the African American Black experience with the world that the character T'Challa comes from, where he
Right.
comes from this idyllic world of Wakanda.
Right.
And
Like like one of the questions they say, oh, this is the reason that your cable bill is in your grandma's name.
yeah,
And I think T'Challa rings in and says, "Oh, because so you can honor her as the head of the family,
as the foundation of the family, yes.
foundation."
And they're like, oh, that's nice. That's wrong, but that's nice. And like the real answer is like, because your grandmother has much better credit than you and you don't need that that TV Guide subscription on your credit card.
Yeah, I mean, it has like a lot of good lines. I'm sure Che must have had a hand in writing some of this stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see how this sketch could not have just like all Black writers to it, like that. When I was rewatching this last night, I was like, this is a sketch you would never get if it was like an all white writing staff, just because they couldn't speak to this.
That's right. You have a you have a room full of Blakes and Chads. They can't write this.
No. I mean, yeah, but I mean, to be fair, maybe a white writer did throw in a line or two. Who knows?
Maybe,
but I mean, the clip that everybody seemed to be sharing this last week or so was the potato salad thing from the end.
Right. Like so. So basically, at the end of this sketch, they have a. Well, I mean, what was the question they were talking about?
The category was white people, and they said, and it's like what you say when your friend Karen brings her potato salad to your cookout.
Yeah.
And T'Challa rings in, and he's like, "Okay, I think I'm getting the hang of this," because he's not really getting the game up until now, but he's like, "Okay, I sense this Karen. She's a white woman, yes?" And they're like, "Yes. Okay." And I sense that she does not season her food. And they're like, yes. And she probably doesn't use paprika, and she probably puts in something unnecessary like raisins. And they're like, yes, you got it.
Oh.
And then he says something like, oh, hell no, Karen, you're not bringing that broke ass potato salad to my cookout.
And this was before Karen was like a thing,
Yeah, maybe it was just starting to become a thing. I don't know. Yeah, I could go on to Urban Dictionary and look up when the whole Karen slang thing started, but yeah, I mean, Karen, it's become the default name for a obnoxious or oblivious white woman.
It has. All right, so John, let me ask you something.
Okay.
So, all right, so this is.
Are we gonna get into the potato salad question?
Yes. Is this true?
We're talking potato salad seasoning. I was hoping we would go here.
Like, dude, I mean, we all know it's like a thing that we say like that. Oh, white people don't season their food. Is this true, or is it not? Like, I gotta know.
I would assume compared to most of the Black community, yeah, no, we do not season our food as much. I mean, I don't think I've ever made potato salad from scratch. Usually when I do potato salad, it's just like something from a supermarket. So that would be, I would imagine, rather bland by most standards.
It would be like, but you use like, onion powder or Mrs. Dash or something, right? Once in a while.
Yeah, I think there is like some seasoning in there. Yeah, sure. I mean, I couldn't tell you the last time I had potato salad. But they mentioned paprika, and I'm like, yeah, I could go for a little paprika in the potato salad. That sounds good. I don't think I've ever had it, but Yeah,
All
I'll
right.
try it. I'll try it. I am open to the more seasoned potato salad. I wanna be introduced to a wider world of potato salad.
Well, there you go, man. See,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's what I like to hear.
So, I mean, I don't know. Do you have a favorite potato salad recipe?
Uh, no, I don't really like potato salad. It's kind of
Oh, damn.
tastes weird to me. I
Oh,
know I'm a weirdo. Like
fuck
I don't
yeah.
like. I know you didn't see that coming. Did
You got
Bet
me
you
to
didn't
put
see that
myself
coming.
out there on the whole potato salad thing, and then
Yeah, I'm sorry. I put it out there.
you,
But
you,
yeah,
you
like
don't have a
potato
horse in
salad.
this race.
Yeah, yeah, I really don't. Like I mean, potato salad, macaroni salad. Uh, I mean, most salads, I'm not a huge. I mean, the green salad's cool, but like every
Right.
other salad, any salad with mayonnaise, I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Little mayonnaise goes a long, long way, man. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not big on a whole lot of mayonnaise on stuff because I don't think it adds a whole lot. You know, you
Uh,
want it in your tuna fish, you want it in your potato salad, occasionally on your sandwich, but yeah, that's about it.
wow, this became a culinary podcast real quick.
This did.
Yeah.
uh, but I mean, I this is a great sketch, and I think this sketch really worked because Boseman just played it totally straight. Like T'Challa is just so sincere and guileless in this sketch, and it just really works because of that. He's not playing the laughs at all, you know.
Yeah. No, he's genuinely like he's genuinely like he's very genuine in this sketch, which I
Hmm.
think it plays up the comedy really well.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a similar thing when in the Black Jeopardy sketch where Tom Hanks was playing that sort of you know get her done Trump supporter type character, where they were like they could see it wasn't really coming from a bad place, so they were like, okay, all right.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man, that
so,
sketch is
so they were
still.
like very tolerant. And Keenan's reactions I thought were really strong in this too.
Yeah. No, that sketch was just still. It's still one of the best like SNL sketches like I've ever seen. I think it's just aces.
Yeah, that was a great one. And I also love that that Chadwick Boseman, he's wearing, it looked like a genuine costume piece from Black Panther. So they either the SNL costume department duplicated that beautifully, or he got to like keep or borrow a costume piece from the actual movie, which is really cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It looked like really authentic. I was like, oh snap, that's like
Hmm.
I think that's the real McCoy.
I think it was. I think it was. I don't know if they work out a deal where they get to keep their outfits, but like when I see the Marvel people visiting kids' hospitals and stuff, they seem to be in the for real costumes.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, that is dope. I can't say things are dope. I can't pull that off.
I didn't want to say anything. I was like, oh, I'll let this go.
No. I tried it. I just sound horribly, horribly Caucasian.
Well,
And speaking of horribly Caucasian, Mikey Day features in our next sketch. Uh,
Mikey Dave's probably like, what was that from?
this is Mikey Day. He's at a press conference. He's the world's first pregnant man, and we find out over the course of the press conference, Chadwick Boseman, he's playing one of the doctors, and he's explaining that it's like this new medical procedure. So he's the pregnant man, and they plan to have a scheduled C-section, but now the baby must be delivered through his urethra.
Yeah,
So
that's and that's pretty much yeah. I don't know about the sketch. It felt like it was not fully fleshed out, but
I mean, there's a lot of stuff there. They go into a fair amount of detail about how this baby is going to be delivered through, as Chris Redd's character says, through his pee hole. They
right.
say through a bowling ball, going through a Twizzler, and they talk about possible tuliping, which
Yeah, that was like, oh god.
it's a very it's a it's a very cringy sort of sketch. I think, especially if you're a man, because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
hear about this stuff, you can't help but imagine it happening to you, and so. Um,
Yeah, and but yeah, I mean, but basically that's a sketch. Like, where it's them describing how the baby is not going to be delivered through the urethra, and of course, Mikey Day in the background being very concerned and very shocked about, because it's the first time
yeah,
he's hearing this, and now he's like, "Oh my God, what's going to happen to my wee wee?"
yeah, yeah, and he's just like, "Oh, what's happening?" Okay, and I like they asked Kate McKinnon as his wife. They were like, "Oh, are you going to be in the delivery room?" And she says, "I was before, but I'm not now."
Yeah, I mean, there actually was kind of a good line in here too, where because Adie Bryan is Chadwick Boseman's assistant,
hmm
and she's taking questions from the reporters, and Adie says, points to one of the reporters, it's like, "Yes, you, the woman in the wrinkled skirt," and
Oh
it's
yeah, yeah, and Cicely Strong is just like, "Well, that was unnecessary, but okay."
that was a cool little line there to kind of
That was a neat
uh,
moment. It wasn't like strictly necessary for the sketch, but I guess they were just like, "Hey, let's give Cecily something funny to react to."
right.
Yeah, it was a neat little a neat little dash of flavor, a little bit of paprika in the comedy sketch.
It was a paprika of comedy, if you will.
Exactly, in the potato salad of this sketch, this was the paprika. Um,
Right. And
yeah,
then the sketch kind of ends, right? Or
well, I mean, they keep upping the ante. They talk about how there's going to be no pain drugs, and it's going to be a 24-hour labor, and then the big kicker at the end is like, well, pick your three favorite girl names because you're having triplets. And it's I thought this was okay, but it's very disturbing.
it is, yeah. It's like, like, I mean, I know the comedy comes from it being disturbing, but it was
Mhm.
just seemed, I don't know, like it did seem to meander a little bit for
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
But
Boseman, because I want to try and talk about his performance in the sketches as much as possible. He did a cool voice as his doctor character, and again, that's not something that strictly had to be done, but it added a little something. I thought.
yeah, absolutely, it was like it was a choice, and yeah, I mean, he kind of sticks to his character really well, and
hmm hmm
yeah, yeah, I dug that part, but yeah, as far as the sketch overall, I thought it was like it was kind of there, but not quite there.
Yeah, yeah. Next, we had a film segment. ADB, AD Bryant does Cardi B. She's kind of inspired by Cardi B's "don't give a fuck" attitude, and so AD starts giving everyone backstage at SNL attitude.
Yeah, so it's just basically like, Adie Bryant, who's just, kind of lovable gal, and but now she's like kind of taking on this, tough Bronx persona because she wants to feel like empowered, like Cardi B is, and
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Like
just
at one point, Beck and Kyle say to each other, "Is she from the Bronx?" And they go, "No, she's from North Central Phoenix."
that was very specific.
Well, what's such a funny way to phrase it? I think they were trying to be like, oh, she's from like, East Central LA, because nobody calls it North Central Phoenix, I don't think.
Like, I mean, I don't know if we have any Arizona listeners, let us know. Did they say North Central Phoenix like that, or is
Yeah,
it just
that just seems like a very street way to phrase it,
yeah? That's like that's very specific.
Um, I also thought it was interesting at one point because, like, this is backstage at SNL. You see a rundown of sketches behind 80's uh, shoulder, and like you see a few of the sketches that were in the show. There was like a Black Panther, and there was a Sesame Street sketch, and I'm like, well, I wonder what the Sesame Street sketch was. But yeah, who knows?
Hmm. Oh yeah, I did notice that too. It's like, oh, is that? I mean, part of me was like, oh, is that the Grouch sketch? But I was like, oh, the Joker didn't come out yet, which
Yeah, I
was
was thinking, yeah, it couldn't have been the Grouch sketch from the David Harbour episode because it would have been a little too early for that. But yeah, I don't know. So maybe there was some Sesame Street sketch that just got axed at dress or whatever, or maybe they just put up fake sketch names that looked interesting. Who knows?
probably that's probably it. That sounds more like it.
That could be it.
But yeah, but I mean, as far as the ADB sketch goes, I thought it was okay. I don't know. What are your thoughts on it?
It was fine. It was fine.
Yeah, yeah, that's yeah,
Didn't love it,
basically.
didn't hate it. It
Yeah.
was like, hey, the white person's rapping. It's novel and unexpected. Yay!
It's funny when they do that.
Yeah, yeah. So,
So that was a thing, and then after that, we got a performance from Cardi B,
mhm,
who did a medley of two of her hit songs, "Bodak Yellow"
mhm.
and "Bautier Cardi."
Yeah, and she was in sort of a covered up in like a feather boa thing.
Right? Yeah, yeah. It actually got a kick out because I did at some point see like feathers fly off the boa and just
Mhm.
like a crazy chicken, a little bit.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I mean, I thought this was okay. Like, I mean, I'm not a huge Cardi B fan. I know a lot of people like her because she's very honest and very blunt, and
Mhm.
people like that honesty, and she's very lively person.
Right,
Has a
right.
great great personality. I think her
Yeah,
songs are
so
okay.
you're either like, "Oh, yeah, she's so awesome, she's so out there," or she could get on your nerves because she's so out there. So, yeah.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And but
I wrote on the Facebook thread a couple years ago, I said, "Not really my thing, but she's good at what she does." So,
fair enough. Yeah,
yeah, I think I stand by that.
yeah, I'm fine with that. And
Yeah.
we also know she's dressed up in like big like a checker print uh, dress, but she's
Yeah.
also covered by the feather boa, like you mentioned, and she's
Yeah.
covered up for a reason, which we will talk about in her next performance.
Which, because we do the musical numbers together, we're going to do right now.
That's
Her
right.
second number was, you remember how we do this, right, Darren?
I did not.
Okay. My co-host has forgotten the format of our show. Okay, that's good to know.
We haven't talked about a show in a minute. Come on, man.
I know. It's been a lot, and when we did do the first episode of SNL last week, we did talk about the musical numbers separately. But yeah, usually we jam them together just because you know it, it's linked by the topic. The
Yeah,
second
jam it.
Cardi B number was "Be Careful." And apparently, this was the number where she publicly revealed that she was pregnant. She's got like a very clear baby bump, uh, and she's dressed up in like this white sort of Bride of Frankenstein type of thing. That's what it reminded me of. Because
Pride of Frankus? Yeah.
well, yeah, because like it's like this long white dress and her arms are kind of wrapped up like in a mummy like fashion. It reminded me of the Elsa Lanchester costume from Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that. Yeah,
Okay,
very much so.
yeah. And they had at one point the camera pulls back because it starts on kind of a close up on her, and then the camera pulls back and like reveals her baby bump, and you hear cheers going up in the studio, which I thought was weird because I'm like, well, you're there, you could obviously see this before the camera pulled back. Why are you cheering now? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And then that's when everybody was like, "Oh, she's prego."
Yeah. I just thought that was weird. I don't know how that I don't get where it's like something's like a big reveal to the audience at home, but obviously the in studio audience can see it. So why are you reacting like you just saw it for the first time?
I don't know. I mean, we're gonna have to do. We're gonna have to go to a live show one of these days just to see how the other
Yeah,
half lives and how they
I
see
mean,
it.
yeah, maybe that was just for people who didn't have a direct line of sight to the stage or something. Who knows? Maybe they were watching it on a monitor and they did see it for the first time.
Maybe,
Who knows?
maybe.
Who knows? But I mean, but I know they do the musical numbers at home base, so now I
Oh,
don't know.
wow, this is a real mystery.
I don't know. Okay. Anyway, so that's about all I had to say about Cardi B.
Yeah, she's great at what she does. And what was the other thing you said?
Not really my thing, but great at what she does. You know?
Cosign.
Yeah. I mean, obviously talented person, just not my personal thing.
Yeah.
Next, we had a weekend update with Colin Jost and Michael Che.
Jay.
Che.
Jay.
Che.
Jay.
Um, it's always kind of interesting watching the older weekend update segments because you're just always kind of like, oh yeah, I remember when that was a thing in the news.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. Like, well, there was one point where Joe says, that Trump deployed the National Guard to the
Mm-hmm.
border, even though illegal border crossings are at their lowest since 1971. It's all part of Trump's slogan. If it ain't broke, I'll break it.
We did. I mean, it seems weird to look back on 2018 as a simpler time, but it really does almost seem like a simpler time coming from today's perspective, because it just, things have gotten worse.
You don't say.
I do say that, Darren Patterson. It's the reason we're not in a studio together. It's the reason we have condoms on the microphones.
Oh boy!
It's the reason I'm wearing gloves so that I can type on a keyboard right now.
Oh yeah, this.
Things are worse.
Yeah. I guess. We know when you list it like that, and I hear it. Yeah, I think you're right.
I mean, it's the reason I still haven't seen the new James Bond movie or the Black Widow movie.
Yeah.
As I saw the comics writer Dan Slott, he posted on Twitter the other day because Robert Pattinson, who's playing Batman in the new movie, he sadly came down with the coronavirus. He said it's Trump's fault that we don't have a new Batman movie right now.
Like, if that doesn't get you to vote for Biden, I don't know what.
He was like, yeah, Trump is taking away Batman from us. So,
I mean, that's got to make at least half of you guys angry.
Exactly. I'm sorry, where were we? We were on Weekend Update.
Yeah, with Jay.
They're also talking about how Stormy Daniels was saying how she can describe the president's genitalia, and Jay's like, please don't. I don't want that image in my head.
Yeah, I think at this point, that's when you wrote on Facebook, why isn't Che just anchoring Weekend Update solo?
Yeah. I still think he could do it solo. I mean, he does have a decent interplay with Colin Jost, though. So, I mean, that is kind of fun, and it would be kind of a shame to lose that. But I think he could certainly do the job. I mean, if Seth Meyers can do it, Michael Che certainly can.
Yeah, fair
it sounds like I'm insulting Seth Meyers, which I don't mean to do.
I mean, Dennis Miller did it. I mean, Norm did it.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it was the default until, I mean, for the longest time for someone to host it solo, and then Tina Fey and Jimmy Fallon kind of brought the duo thing back, and now the duo thing has become the default. So,
yeah, I guess so.
I don't know. It is fun to have the interplay.
Yeah, and didn't some interplay.
Yeah, I mean, even though you don't really have news shows that are hosted by two people anymore, do you?
What news show? Not really. I mean,
back in the 70s, they had like Hugh Downs and Barbara Walters, like they hosted 2020 together in the 70s and 80s, and she was like the first female co-host on some newscast or another, I think on ABC. I forget who with, but yeah, now it's in a lot of ways. An update is kind of parroting what the news used to be rather than what the news is now. You know?
Yeah, I guess you're right. Wow, I didn't think of that. Wow,
yeah,
this podcast really makes you think.
It really does. It really does. We're deep. Yeah.
We entertain and educate.
We do. We're like the Black Panther of the podcast world.
Yeah,
I mean, that's what I've always said. That's what I've always said.
That's what I've said, and I'll keep on saying it.
Yep. And I guess that makes me either Andy Serkis or Martin Freeman.
I'll leave that up to you guys to decide which one.
Yeah. You write in. Let me know which one of those guys I am, because those are my only options.
Yeah. So that next up we had Mark Zuckerberg come in, played by Mikey Alex Moffat-Day.
Yes. Talking about Facebook privacy and I mean, the joke was kind of like that Zuckerberg is just kind of an odd guy. That seemed to be more the joke than anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's still the joke, that he's like very robotic and he doesn't know how emotions work.
Yeah,
and human feelings and all, and that's so like Alex Moffat kind of played into that, like trying to do a joking laugh, and it turns out to sound like a
yeah.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sounds like a maniacal madman's cackle.
Yeah. Yeah. And he at one point he says to Colin, he says, "Remember when we were best friends at Harvard?"
Mhm.
And I'm not even sure if they were at Harvard at the same time, but I guess the age would be about right.
Oh, you mean Zuckerberg and
And Colin Jost,
Col-
yeah.
I didn't think of it. Has anybody asked Joe's dad? Like, did he know Zuckerberg back?
Well, I mean, Jost like immediately said like, "Oh, we weren't friends at Harvard." And then I heard that and I was like, "Oh, that's right. Yeah, Jost went to Harvard. Yeah." So I guess he could have been there around the same time that Zuckerberg was there.
Interesting. All
So
right.
who knows? But yeah, yeah, they probably didn't travel in the same circles.
Yeah,
Jost
I
was
guess not.
writing for the Lampoon, and Zuckerberg was writing code that would change the world and kill our democracy
Yeah. All right. Wait. So,
and
all right.
bring
So,
this podcast together.
yeah. All right. So I looked at Zuckerberg enrolled at Harvard in 2002, and it said Jost graduated in 2004. So
Okay.
February '04, he launched the Facebook.com. So yeah, I guess
So,
they were around
so
the same
there
time.
had to be at least a little overlap. So
Yeah. Hmm.
okay,
Interesting.
all
All
right.
right.
So
All right.
so now you know that.
Now you know the rest of the story.
Yeah, that's right, Paul Harvey. Um, so I thought this was just semi-successful. We also had Heidi Gardner coming back as every boxer's girlfriend from every movie about boxing ever.
Right. This is the one where her catchphrase is "I'm taking the kids to my sisters," and
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I kind of like it just because I like Heidi's like commitment to this character and this,
Mm-hmm.
like the way she plays it. Like, I mean, she hits on a lot of the tropes like that you'd see in like a boxing movie that has when the boxer always has a girlfriend or a wife, the wife or girlfriend's always going through all this strife over the boyfriend's or husband's need to go box, and like she kind of hits on all those kind of tropes pretty well.
Yeah, she does. This character's fine. Not one of my favorites. It does drive me nuts that they tend to name they just tend to just give you the character traits in the update character's name now. Like the girl you wish you hadn't started a conversation with at the party, the every boxer's girlfriend, the poorly developed the character from every male-driven comedy, Drunk Uncle. They just say like this is the character trait instead of giving them a name like Rosanna Dana or something like that. I just think that's a weird habit. But
No, I hear you. I mean, but I think they do that just so like you can sort of know what to expect like soon as the character comes out.
yeah,
Like, I mean, I think it's like, kind of like a cheat sheet or like a little shortcut to say like, all right, so this character is this. So once they go into the thing, you already know what to expect, and you're not kind of playing catch up trying to figure out what this is all about.
yeah, I guess I don't know. Isn't it generally more fun to discover it though?
It kind of is, yeah. But I mean, I get why they do it, just because like the girlfriend of a boxer in every movie you've seen is such a specific character. Like
Yeah,
if Angie, I think Angie or Angel just came out as that character, you wouldn't know exactly what she was doing. It's like, well, why are
yeah.
you
It,
talking
it
like this?
probably would take you a couple minutes to catch on. So
Yeah,
yeah,
like
I mean,
she's like, oh,
I'm not necessarily saying I wish they didn't do it. I guess I'm just saying I wish they mixed it up a little bit more.
no, fair enough, fair
Yeah.
enough. I hear
Um.
you. But yeah, I mean, as far as weekend update goes, that this was okay. From what I remember, it didn't like blow me away or nothing.
Yeah. It's perfectly fine. I'm using that word a lot. I know, but I kind of realized by this point in the episode, I was like, oh yeah, I think there's a reason that the Black Jeopardy sketch is the only one we really remember from this episode.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I mean, when after watching this episode again, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this episode wasn't the best, except
Yeah.
with the exception of the Black Jeopardy.
Yeah. Next, we had a Magic Mirror, which was an attraction at Disney World where you stand in front of a mirror and it shows you which Disney princess you are. Like you're seeing the Disney princess projected back at you.
Yeah, this sketch was, it's just
Did you notice that Adie Bryant like blew her line or like transposed a couple bits of her line early on? She said something like, inside every princess is a lady. And
Yeah, what
it
you meant to say.
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I did notice that too. I was like, oh, did you just flub her lines right there real quick?
Yeah, and you see Cecily like react just momentarily. She's just like, that's not the line.
Oh, live television, people.
Yeah, but so we have Cecily, Melissa, and Leslie as a group of friends. They're just having fun at Disney World, and they decide to use the magic mirror. Melissa goes up, she walks up to the magic mirror. She's Elsa from Frozen. Cecily walks up to the magic mirror, and she's Rapunzel. And then Leslie Jones walks up to the magic mirror, and she is R. Kelly, as played by Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't know. This sketch was just so weird because it just like there weren't really any jokes to it. It was just like the shock of seeing R. Kelly, and I think at one point he puts like popcorn in a bag.
Yeah, he's like holding this bag of popcorn like at crotch level and just being very suggestive with it, and it's weird.
It is like I don't know. I mean, this sketch. I think they thought that the shock of seeing that would be enough to carry the sketch, but it's really not because like there aren't really any jokes. It's like more them reacting to what they're seeing. It's like, oh my god, is that R. Kelly and blah blah blah. And even at one point, Leslie Jones says like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And it's. I mean, there's no jokes in the sketch really. It's more just like reactions to this. But like, I don't know. I felt like at some points, like the people in the sketch were waiting for somebody to say a joke or something funny to happen, and it never came. So like everybody's just kind of waiting for something that doesn't show up.
Yeah, you want more of a turn. It doesn't seem to have much beyond it to much more to it than, hey, wouldn't it be funny if R. Kelly popped up in the magic mirror at Disney World? And it's just like kind of funny, maybe. I guess it's odd. It's more odd than funny,
Yeah, absolutely. It's more odd than funny, and like Leslie Jones is like taken aback, and then I think Adie says, "Oh no, I think that's the character from Mulan."
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah. And then at the very end, I think didn't Keenan come in and be like, oh, or no, somebody else came in and was like, oh, hey, it's this guy from Mulan. Ha ha ha.
And then the end. That's the scene. I was
and scene.
I was like, this needed a rewrite. This doesn't feel fleshed out at all.
Yeah. I mean, I thought Chadwick was fine, but they just didn't give him too much to work with here.
Yeah, agreed.
Next, we had a sketch where everyone's playing firefighters, and they're putting out a fire, and then Chadwick Boseman's character says, "Hey, I have to leave at 6," and he's just trying to punch out of the fire like he's punching a time clock, that's a funny idea.
It is, yeah, but then like they keep pressing him, saying, "What is it? Why do you have to leave? We got a fire here." But he's like being very kind of coy and shady, but like, I don't want to tell you. All I'll say is it involves dogs and dolls.
Yeah,
and they're like dolls and what? And so
and
like
they try to figure out what it could possibly be, and
not a lot of laughs from the audience in this one, I've noticed.
No, this played to almost dead silence. I mean, I like the idea of a firefighter like in the middle of a raging fire, just being like, "Okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm out of here." That's cute, and I liked him saying like, "Hey, I did my part. I squirted it before everyone else," and he keeps saying, "I squirted it."
Look, like my dad was a firefighter, and I'll ask him.
Yeah.
I'll ask him, but I'm pretty sure "squirted it" isn't the term they use when it comes to fighting fires.
That's not the technical term for. So this was an inaccurate sketch about firefighters, you're saying?
I'm going to go ahead and say yes for my dad.
Okay. Good to know. Good to know. I thought this was technically very impressive because they did have like a building front and they have like little bits of fire coming out. So that's pretty impressive for a live television program. We've got actual fire.
Yeah, dude, this was like one of the most elaborate sets I've ever seen for a sketch.
And
It,
they've got like a fire engine in there. They actually squirt a hose at the fire at one point. Not
yeah,
hard, but
something came out. Yeah, it was like a Broadway style set, and
yeah.
like so they have all this huge ass set for like a joke that doesn't really kind of go anywhere.
Like what I would have found much more fascinating would be like watching the behind the scenes of them putting this sketch together. That would have been really interesting to see. Like,
That for
okay, how do we get the fire going? How do we control the fire? Do we have like some of those little Duraflame logs that they use in movies? Probably something like that. How do we get the hose working? I'd like to
do,
find out about all that stuff.
do we actually set Studio 8H on fire for this sketch
Mm-hmm.
or not? How do we do this?
How do we decide that Kenan Thompson's character needs a gray fake mustache that makes him look like the dad from Family Matters? I mean,
Oh,
at
Rich.
what point did we decide that? Did we make that call? And whoever made that call, I salute you, sir or madam,
Thank you.
because wonderful choice. Wonderful choice.
Yeah, tip of the hat to you. It's like,
Tip
let's make Keenan look like Rich. Let's make Keenan look like Reginald Val Johnson. Like
yes,
that's what the people want.
let us do that wherever possible. I don't know why Reginald Bell Johnson is not a recurring character for Kenan.
Well, what if you want to sign my MoveOn.org petition to get that started? You're more. I'll email you the link.
Co-signed, sir.
Yeah. So I mean, as the sketch goes on, I think Chadwick reveals that my idea is to have like a doll version of yourself that you can leave in your empty house so your dog isn't lonely. And then they say, "Oh yeah, that already exists. See, it's on my app here." And then they cut to like a scene where the Keenan has like a blow up version of himself in the fire truck with the Dalmatian next to him.
Yeah.
And then I think what Chadwick is like, "Oh, that already exists. All right, well, I guess that idea is done." And then he just
Yeah.
kind of walks away.
Well, and then he says, "Oh yeah," and then they say he walked into the fire, and they're like, "No, just let him go," which I like. I like that they chose to end the sketch that way. I kind of admire the ambition of this sketch more than I admire the actual sketch. It's not funny, but it certainly is trying for something different.
There's a lot going on, and I mean, none of it comedy, but there's a lot going on.
Yes. Yeah. No comedy going on, but there's stuff going on. There are undeniably things happening on screen during the time that this sketch was on the air.
Yeah. I mean, there's fire, there's water out of hoses at the live Dalmatian. Like, things are happening.
Walks into a fire.
Things are happening. None of it really funny, but there's things happening.
Again, Keenan's mustache. I know I'm harping on this, but he just looks so good in that mustache.
It was pretty tight.
It was tight. It was pretty tight.
So at this point, what are we up to? The restaurant sketch?
The restaurant sketch with everybody in wigs.
A lot of wigs.
Yeah. We had Chadwick Boseman in dreads. Keenan's got what do you call that? It's not quite an afro. I mean, I associate afros with being round, but it's like grown out hair, and it's out there.
It was like, I think the term is half-fro.
Half of it. I love that. That is wonderful. Okay, I am learning things. A half-fro.
Because like half an afro.
Okay. Is that an actual thing, or did you just make that up right now?
I think I heard it somewhere, but I'm willing to take credit for it right now.
Okay, that is spectacular. And we had Kate McKinnon in like this big redhead wig, and Cecily Strong is playing this blonde woman with like a pink streak in her hair. So they all look rather odd.
They're a motley crew.
Yeah, they're eccentric characters. And they ask their waiter, they say, we need to speak with the manager. And they're like, oh, do you have a complaint? And they're like, we just have to speak with the manager. And the manager comes over to the table, and then they start singing a song about how good the food was.
Yeah, it's like a kind of like a doo-woppy da 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 type
Yeah.
type of Broadway thing. And the song always ends with Chadwick Boseman doing like a deep like ooh yeah like
Yeah.
a Satchmo type of thing.
Yeah. Because you want to give the host his moment. And then they're like, okay, this sounded like a complaint, but you just sang about how good the food was. And they're like, oh, well, you haven't heard the next verse. And then the next verse is all complaints about the hostess, Angelina, about how she didn't really smile and she led them to a bad table. And yeah, this is another very odd sketch, more odd than funny.
Yeah, and I didn't read. I think I'm looking at the Facebook link.
Yeah.
And I wrote ... The fuck is this?
Yeah, you just wrote a comment. The fuck is this? And then you alternated question marks and exclamation points. I just said we have these 4 wigs and we're gonna use them.
I stand by my statement.
Yeah. And Chadwick does a deep gravelly voice thing. Trust me, it's gonna be great.
Chadwick, can you do like a deep gravelly? What singer was he trying to do? Like I forget what singer he was trying to.
I don't know. I know who you mean, but I can't recall the fellow's name.
Yeah. All right. Well, I forget it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this sketch was just like, all right. Again, it really felt like it wasn't another sketch. It didn't feel like it was fleshed out. It felt like they kind of had an idea of what to do, and they wrote that.
This is the weird stuff that you get when you get closer and closer to 1 a.m. on the show.
Yeah.
This is the thing that was written at like 4 a.m.
And like, I just want to go home. I need to have this sketch stuff.
Yeah. But I mean, who knows? Sometimes they work. Sometimes you get a diner lobster, you know?
Sometimes you get a diner lobster.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up, we have another pre-tape, The Game of Life, DACA edition.
Yes. Where they're playing the classic board game, The Game of Life. And then Melissa Villaseñor's character, she finds out, oh, I'm a dreamer. And then she has to navigate the whole world of immigration and trying to get her citizenship and all the pitfalls that entails.
Right. So like it's basically like The Game of Life, but like you said, like Melissa, she's a dreamer. So she gets her version of life is a little different. She goes to the DACA version where she has to jump through bureaucratic hoops, duck from ICE officers, and work 3 jobs just to get by.
Yep. Because life kind of sucks for those folks.
It does, yeah. And I think, it kind of goes not off the rails, but it takes this turn that I didn't see coming, where they have to take a tweet card, which is basically like a card where you got to pick up that's like a tweet from the president, and it said that DACA is dead. So Melissa is like, well, what happens now? It's like, oh, that, and then the board game kind of flips out and spills out and becomes like a bigger board game.
Yeah.
And now they start playing the immigration court system expansion pack version of life.
Right. Where she finds out like her court date's been delayed for 3 years. And yeah. And again, just all the sucky things that of just trying to get your American citizenship. And yeah, I thought this was good. I thought this should have been earlier in the show.
Yeah, I'm really surprised this wasn't earlier in the show.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, this was actually really good. Like they could have pumped this up a little bit more. But I don't know, man. I don't know why they put it so late in the night. But
yeah, I mean, maybe it was a timing thing. Who knows?
Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, this sketch I dug. It was like, it tries to make light of the whole DACA thing, which, I mean, it's kind of tricky to do that, but I think they found a way to sort of maybe kind of have a little bit of fun with it, which is, I mean, oof, oh boy.
And then we had our final sketch of the night, which is we see an audience coming out of a theater that's showing Black Panther, and the black audience members, they're all pumped up from that, and then we got Beck and Pete Davidson as a couple of white guys, and they do the Wakanda Forever salute, and the black people are like, yeah, that's not really your thing.
Yeah, this sketch was interesting. This sketch kind of felt like more of a discussion than an actual sketch. It seemed like they were
Yeah.
like really talking kind of back and forth about the Wakanda salute and who can and cannot do it. I thought it was interesting.
Mm-hmm. Like, is that appropriation? Cultural appropriation. I mean, even though it's like a fictional culture, and they talk about, they're like, oh well, that salute that comes from Egyptian kings and da da da, and yeah, like you said, it did feel a little more like a discussion than a sketch.
Yeah, like at one point, the Chadwick comes into the sketch and he's supposed to be like kind of a woke type of Hotep type of character, and he's
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, like you said,
he's not playing himself. Oddly enough, it's not like, hey, Chadwick Boseman, come over and explain this. They're just
right? No,
like, hey, you look like you're in the know, and we're not going to comment on you looking remarkably like Chadwick Boseman.
yeah, I don't know why they just let that go.
I mean, maybe because then it would become a sketch about them freaking out for meeting Chadwick Boseman or something.
I guess, yeah.
But I mean, I thought it was interesting that like the black people have a problem with it, but they're not entirely sure why they have a problem with it. They're just like, I don't know. It just doesn't feel like when the white guys do it.
Yeah, I mean, they said, oh, it's like they have this feeling in their guts, like it's like indigestion but racial. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
and I kind of get it because
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, this sketch again, it kind of hits me in a certain way because I remember a couple of years ago when we could do comedy. I did a show at in Long Island at my buddy's show at this coffee shop, and like I had a good set, and they ended it with just saying "Wakanda Forever," just like like a like a funny little thing, a funny little side. I thought.
What was it? A white person hosting?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
But so I just said Wakanda Forever as like a quick little joke. And then as I got off, everybody was applauding me. They liked it. And like I noticed one of the white guys in the audience did the Wakanda salute. And I can't explain why, but yeah, for some reason I was like, I don't know. I felt a certain way about that. Like, I don't know.
You got a twinge.
Yeah. So like, it just, I don't know. I'm still thinking, I still think about it to this day. It's like, why did I not? I mean, I know I kind of invited it because I said Wakanda Forever, but
Right.
I don't know, just to see. I guess it's like one of those things where, like, the Wakanda salute this means so much to the black community, to see it get maybe co-opted, or it's like it just doesn't. It just feels weird.
It's kind of like that famous photo from the Olympics. I think it was like around like 1968, where like two of the athletes, they're doing the Black Power salute, and you see like the one white guy on the dais, and he's just kind of standing there awkwardly, and it's like,
what do I do? What do I do?
I mean, if you do it, are you supporting it, or are you like co-opting that?
Yeah, I guess it's like a thing where when you see something special like that, that's like just your thing. When you see it become bigger and like kind of become bigger than you, become more mainstream, it
Right.
like kind of bums you out a little bit. Like I always think about, I probably talked about this on the podcast when I watched like a behind the music about The Cure.
Mm-hmm.
And like how in the early days, like goth kids really loved The Cure. They were all about it. Even like in high school when you're getting bullied by the popular kids for liking stuff like that, The Cure, that band was like your little like your little go-to, like your little respite from the world.
Right.
And then The Cure made Just Like Heaven, which was a huge mainstream hit, and then suddenly all the popular kids like The Cure,
Right.
and all the kids that bullied you are into The Cure now. Like if you're an original fan of The Cure, you feel a certain way.
Yeah. You look at those other people as posers. I remember like a similar thing, like when the first Batman movie with Michael Keaton that hit in 1989, and that was a huge cultural phenomenon. And so like you were seeing Batman logos and emblems everywhere. People were like shaving it into their heads and wearing it on T-shirts, and it was a weird feeling as a comic fan because it felt like we'd been kind of almost invaded, or like our culture had been co-opted. And that, of course, that's nowhere on the scale of like, adapting like a genuine cultural thing. But But
Right.
I can kind of relate to that feeling. It is a weird feeling where it's just like, yeah, you didn't know about this like 2 months ago, and now suddenly you're like, you're all about this.
Yeah, you just feel like, oh, this was my thing, but now it became bigger
Yeah.
than me, and
And that,
now it's like I got to share with the rest of you yahoos.
yeah, and that's why like you see like in the geek circles, you see like some people like ranting about like, oh, fake geek girls, they weren't into these characters until they did movies about them, or they're like, oh well, you have to pass my geek litmus test before I'll share my enthusiasm about the X-Men with you, like you know.
To prove yourself to be a true geek, you must answer my riddles 3.
Exactly, and I see people like behave like that, and I just think like, when I was in high school, I would have killed for like most people to be into the stuff that I was into. That was the stuff you got teased about, or in some cases beat up about. And
Yeah,
I would have been thrilled like with it, like a cute girl was into the X-Men or whatever.
it would have been
Why is this
nice.
a bad thing?
I don't know. People, well, when people like have a strong love and a connection to something,
Yeah,
then it's like a strong bond, and like to see other people kind of maybe get into that thing just because it's like the hip thing to get into, or maybe they didn't discover it till later. I guess like a lot of times people feel like that's just they're just posers, like you said, or just like there's some
yeah.
fakery about it that just riles them up.
I
So I
get,
mean,
I,
I get it, but it's at the same time it's kind of bigger than you at this point. So you just gotta like
yeah.
gotta learn to share.
I mean, I guess it's a natural impulse to feel kind of selfish about the thing you're passionate about, because like if it's a like an underappreciated thing, you almost love it all the more. Like with the TV show Community, like that never did well in the ratings, but I loved it all the more, and I felt like I had to support it all the more fervently because of that, because it wasn't like getting the ratings that like Big Bang Theory was or something like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Or I mean, if you even take it to another level, you could say like when hip hop first came out, people just thought, oh, it's noise. It's just a bunch of
Hmm.
white people in the hood making noise. But now it's like global and universal, and it's used to sell all types of stuff. And
Right.
now we got to. It's bigger than the Bronx now. It's like it's out there in the world. Like I always think of this. I think what was it? This quote I think Bob Dylan said once where about rock and roll when it first came out. It's like, yeah, it used to be a thing that you can get arrested for. Now it's used to sell orange juice. It's just like, and it just becomes bigger than you, and it's not the special. I mean, it's still like the special thing you love, but now it's like
Yeah.
become this bigger thing.
Everything gets super popular and then gets co-opted, and then yeah.
Hopefully, this podcast will follow suit.
Yes. No, we look forward to all the SNL nerd purists, like some like a decade from now, being like, hey, I listened in the first 100 episodes, man. That's when it was really good. That was before Darren and John sold out, man.
Yeah, I listened back when Darren was doing this from his bedroom.
Hey man, I was following the Facebook posts back in the day. That was like seeing the Beatles in the Cavern Club. All right.
Before they started doing their podcast in the Palladium or whatever.
Yeah. That's when they sold out.
Yeah.
That's like when the Beatles started wearing suits instead of the leather jackets, man.
Oh, back before they went electric.
Yeah, they're totally gonna say that about us someday.
I can see it.
Only a matter of time. Only a matter of time, my friend.
Yeah, and so yeah, that's the episode.
Episode. We had
Yeah,
we had the good nights. I noticed Chadwick Boseman. He was wearing a jacket that said T'Challa on the back, which was kind of cool. And then we had that thing where everybody in the cast hugs each other. And I started wondering watching this. I was like, do you think there's ever been a show where like two cast members were really pissed off at each other for whatever reason, but they hugged anyway, just for appearance's sake?
I mean, it must have happened at some point.
It
Yeah, I
it
mean,
had to have happened, right? I mean, because they've
I'm,
done 800 something episodes by this point, probably like 1,000 or something by this point, 2.5 years later. I can't count. No,
I mean, yeah,
it'd be about 900 now, I guess. If it was like 840 something.
But I mean, it must have happened. I mean, Chevy Chase hosted. It must have happened.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like Bill Murray and Chevy Chase got into a scuffle or a fist fight right before the show started. So I wonder what those good nights were like. We should try and find that episode and watch that one.
Medium talent.
Medium talent. One of the best insults ever. Medium talent.
My God. I mean, my God.
Someone should write a biography of Chevy Chase just called Medium Talent.
I mean, I got the time now. I'll get started.
Let's get started on that.
I'll do it. Sure, why not?
Let's start interviewing people for the oral history of Chevy Chase. Medium Talent, an oral history of Chevy Chase. I like how we've already decided it's a slanted biography. It's just such a good title, though.
It's a great title. I love it.
You got to write a book that lives up to that title. So it's got to be a critical book.
Damn straight. All right. So I mean, as far as this episode goes, I mean, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like, I mean, I thought it was okay. I mean, aside from the DACA commercial and the Black Jeopardy, there really wasn't much here. Yeah. I mean, like I like Chadwick Boseman. I like his acting in it, but like I really think the writers were kind of.
Overall, I'd say it's like a C episode. The Black Jeopardy Black Panther sketch. That's a B plus, if not an A. You know, it's very, very good.
Yeah, agree. I'm with you.
I mean, but isn't it funny that this episode really only had one really, truly, truly memorable sketch in it, but we still have kind of good feelings about the episode because of that. You know, all it really takes is like one really great sketch, and you're favorably inclined to the episode.
Yeah, I agree. Like once you have that one good sketch in a show, you remember the entire episode a little bit more favorably.
Yeah, because I mean, you tend to forget the bad ones unless they're really super bad.
Yeah, you do. Like I mean, some of the you guys who listen to the old episodes know how I feel about some of these episodes, but
yeah,
there were some that were not the best.
No, but it was interesting to revisit it. It's not from that far in the history, but it already feels like a bit like an artifact, you know?
It really does. It feels like it took place a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we put the word out on Twitter that we were doing this episode, and we got a couple tweets.
Ooh. Okay.
We got one, Monette Maradi, a friend of the show, said, not the best episode from that season, TBH. Mm-hmm. It was one of those cases where it was a classically trained actor as a host with little comedy experience aided by mostly weak sketch writing. Wish we could have had more opportunities to see Chadwick in comedy movie roles.
Yeah, he didn't really do much in the way of comedy that I know of. I mean, he's, of course, best known for Black Panther, and he did a lot of biopics. He played Thurgood Marshall, James Brown, and Jackie Robinson.
Right.
And I haven't seen any of those movies, and I feel horrible that I haven't seen any of those movies. I got to check those out.
Right. I mean, I haven't seen them either, but like I got to check them out.
Yeah. My friend Jeff Knapp, he commented on a Facebook post I made this morning. He was saying that he just watched 21 Bridges, which apparently has nothing to do with Bridges. So,
Jeff, it doesn't have anything to do with Jeff Bridges.
I think it was about Jeff Bridges, Beau Bridges, and their 19 siblings. I was hoping it was a Jeff Bridges biopic with Chadwick Boseman as Jeff Bridges, but no, apparently not.
False advertising.
False advertising.
Mm-hmm. But, we also got another tweet from my sister, Melanie.
Hey!
At Bacon Awesome Love. She says she says he was genuine and very willing to participate. He gave it his all, and that paid off with the Jeopardy parody being so on point. His death was tragic, but his legacy is great. I know this isn't the forum for this, but you two are nerds. How should Marvel carry on without Boseman? I have thoughts.
We both have thoughts. We discussed a little about this off air in life and in like a text message with our buddy Matt. We have feelings. Why don't you go first?
Well, okay. Like most people, like, this was a big, huge, sad bummer
Mm-hmm.
of his passing away. I Part of me doesn't want to see another Black Panther movie just because, like, the first one was so special and meant so much,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just so important. But I mean, at the same time, I know that because that movie was so big and made the money it did, and it kind of proved that you can have a Black Panther franchise. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I just know Disney's going to do another one because, like, if they don't do another one, they're leaving money on the table, and
Yeah,
Disney ain't about that.
that's true.
So,
True.
so I think the worst thing they could do is if they recast T'Challa, like if they have somebody else come in and play T'Challa and kind of pretend like nothing happened. That's the worst thing they can do, and that I really hope they don't do.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say I know the idea has been floated out on the interwebs that Shuri should take over the mantle as Black Panther, and I'm more inclined to agree with that would be the best way to go.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, like we already know her; she's already been introduced in the first film, in the first Black Panther, and like her taking over the mantle, it could kind of have like a Spider-Man Far From Home vibe, where it's like this person who has to sort of be the new hero after their kind of mentor or their loved one passes away, and like it's them kind of stepping into the role as the new superhero. So I would say either Shuri or maybe like Winston Duke, who played M'Baku, could be it, and that's a whole nother dynamic where it'd be like this guy who's like sort of isolated himself away from the community of Wakanda. Like he
Mm-hmm.
has to now try to learn to be the new leader, and like kind of change his way. So like I think those would be the only two ways that Black Panther sequel would work going forward. Like you just kind of promote from within. Like you make one of these two characters that we've already known and come to love, either Shuri or M'Baku, and make them the Black Panther.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, those are definitely interesting ideas. I know the Shuri thing has some precedence in the comic. I believe they did have Shuri take over as Black Panther at one point because she is related by blood, and it's a thing. It's a mantle that's passed down through the Wakandan royal family. So that makes a certain amount of sense. Um, do you want to put that on that actor though? Um,
Yeah, that's a thing too. Like, I mean, I don't know. Like, I mean, if I mean, it depend. I guess it would depend on if the actor feels comfortable doing this because like they've
yeah.
got big shoes to fill, and maybe it depends on the script. Like if the script is done in a way where it's respectful and pays homage to the memory of Chadwick, and it's still a good story, then it makes sense. Then maybe they would be inclined to do it.
Right. I mean, because it's, when somebody dies unexpectedly and tragically like this, it's not like an actor just leaving the role or getting fired or just deciding that they're done, like Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans. I mean, I think in either case, you could replace those guys more easily because they both left the roles voluntarily. And it's not, you're not going to be constantly reminded about Chadwick Boseman's untimely death.
Right, right.
So that's a tough. I think, just tastefully, I think they just have to leave it for a while. You know,
Right.
like give it, and also there are so many Marvel movies now. Where and in COVID world, who knows when they would have a chance to shoot that? So I feel like we're probably at least 2 or 3 years away from the movie even being a thing. Which is that long enough? I don't know. Um, do you recast it? I mean, I understand the argument. Yeah, the character is bigger than the actor, and maybe the character should carry on to inspire other like young black kids out there. Um, because you saw so many photos on social media of like young kids with their Black Panther action figures or something, and they're doing the Wakanda Forever salute, and I mean, how can you not be touched by that? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the best way to go forward is. My gut right now is it doesn't it certainly doesn't feel right to talk about just straight up recasting and have somebody else and like, here's your new T'Challa.
Right?
That,
No, no. I mean, because Marvel has done that in the past, like when they recast Bruce Banner, and when they recast Howard Stark, and when they
right.
recast Rhodey from the Iron Man movies. Like they've
Yeah.
done that, but like I think because Black Panther is such an important figure and he's such a larger than life almost, like
Yeah.
he's a character you can't just put in another actor and be
And
like,
there
oh,
was
this is
talk,
T'Challa now.
and there was talk with, with both Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans leaving, and Black Panther was this big, almost out of nowhere hit. I mean, people were talking about him being like the new central figure in the Marvel universe, and you can't really do that now because so much of that was tied to Chadwick's performance. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I will just say that I do trust the folks at Marvel. They know what they're doing, and I feel like they will figure it out, and they will figure out a good way to go forward with that. But yeah, I think realistically, like you said, there's just too much money on the table for them not to do something, to not find some way to continue. Um, Having the character of M'Baku, that's a really interesting. I find that find that really interesting.
Yeah,
Uh,
I just kind of came to me. I was like, oh, because it does make sense. I mean, he is just like the second strongest man or
mhm.
best strongest warrior
And
in
he challenged
Wakanda.
T'Challa in the first film, and he would come at it with a whole other point of view. I've also heard people like say like, "Oh, bring Killmonger back, bring him back to life," and he had such a great death. I don't want to see them do that. I
Yeah,
think
like how would he even? I mean, I really like the character of Killmonger too, but like, I mean, how would they even do that realistically? Like, bring him back from the dead? Like, it doesn't. I
yeah.
mean, it's. I mean, that doesn't. I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to like suspend a lot of disbelief in order for that to work. So, like, that doesn't. And plus, it doesn't make sense
I mean,
either.
when a fictional character has a really great death like that, I'm generally really reluctant to see them be brought back because it's like, what can you do with them that would be better or that would exceed that character, the way that character went out, you know? So yeah, and also in a comic book universe, it's so easy to bring people back from the dead. You can't do it every single time. You got to leave some people dead.
Yeah, I mean, plus, like you said, like his death was so strong and so powerful. To bring him back from the dead would just like kind of take away from all that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I just don't see them topping or matching what they did with him before. And it's I think it's fine for him just to be in that one movie.
Yeah,
For
it
Killmonger.
makes.
And maybe for the Black Panther too. Maybe the most respectful thing is just to have the character die with the actor. I don't know though.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
it just makes it just makes the character even mean more that they were just in that one movie and that was it. I mean,
Yeah.
Heath Ledger is the Joker, just in the one movie and that's it. And like his
Hmm.
legacy is stronger because of it.
Yeah, I mean, and they did cast other people as the Joker since then, but it's been different treatments of the Joker and in like a different movie series. They didn't like do Dark Knight Rises and then bring somebody else in as the Joker. I think that would have been a mistake because
Oh,
again
yeah,
that
huge.
that would have just reminded you that Heath Ledger is not there. So I think if they did something like that with Black Panther, that would be a mistake. Um, but I think maybe in a few years, yeah, you could. I think you could eventually recast all these characters because like they managed to recast James Bond and they kept that series rolling. Um,
That's true.
I mean, it's not a one to one parallel because we didn't have any of the Bond actors die tragically while they were still playing the role. But I don't know. You could do it. There is a way forward, but I
Maybe
just
not.
take your time with it.
Yeah, let's not jump into that pool just yet.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some people discussing it like less than a day after he died, and it's like, guys, now's not the time for this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man,
I
come
mean,
on.
I get that you're geeks. I get that you don't want your toys to be broken, but the man died. So,
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. You just put up a sad emoji, and now you're just wondering when the next Black Panther 2 is going to come up. But let's just pump the brakes on this for just a little
Yeah,
bit.
exactly. I don't know.
Wow, this shit got real.
We got real. We got real, son.
Hell yeah. Wakanda forever. Yeah, and that's the episode, guys.
That's the episode. That's the episode.
Yeah.
What are we doing next week?
What are we doing next week?
We have so many possibilities because we unfortunately just because trying to make plans in the age of COVID, it seems like a fool's errand because we've planned a few episodes and a few episodes have fallen through. So we have some options of things.
Indeed, we do. But yeah, so I mean, for now, it looks like we're going to go back to the movies, back to the old DVD shelf, and we're going to talk about a little film from 1999 called Office Space.
Office Space, which was, of course, written and directed by Mike Judge, who's done a lot of animated shorts for SNL, and this spun out of the old Milton shorts that he used to do for the show. So, this Office Space is a movie that would not exist if not for SNL.
Yeah, very much so. It was from what I remember, like this came out when I was in college, and like it was one of those. This is one of those movies that, like, when it came out, it didn't do well, like kind of bombed, but like has built up a huge cult following.
Big cult movie, yeah.
As the years have gone on, I actually remember seeing this film. Now that I think about it, I saw this for my college newspaper when like I was writing a review for it. Like even back then, I saw it. And I was like, "Oh, this thing's hilarious! It's gonna do."
You saw everything for your college newspaper, man.
I was a big deal back in the day. I don't mind telling
you. You got your college newspaper to buy you movie tickets. Okay.
I saw that in the screening room of the Sony office building. Thank you.
Ooh, well,
you know,
all right.
Big things happening. Big things happening.
All right, tell us that story next week. Okay, so next week, Office Space.
Absolutely, and as always, if you want to follow the podcast, you can follow us on Twitter at SNL Nerds Show. And of course, we're all on all the platforms: the Spotify, the Apple Podcasts, the Google Plays, the Stitcher, the Whatcha-Who. Rate, review, subscribe, leave us a review. Help us pump this baby up to bigger and better and loftier heights.
Yeah, we wanna go to the next level with this. So yeah, if you can tell a friend about the podcast, we appreciate it. If you can rate and review the podcast, we appreciate it. Just spread the word however you can. Like retweet it when we post a new episode. That helps a lot. So
yeah, really
yeah. And you can follow the show at SNL Nerd Show on Twitter and Instagram. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Trumbull Comic, TRUMBULL, and the word comic.
And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Darren Credible, DARIN Credible.
And something almost forgot. We want to give a shout out to our super producer Frank Kablawi. He and his wife, they had a baby this week. So welcome to the world, little Kablawi. And everybody's happy and healthy.
Mazel tov.
Mazel tov. So yeah. And I think that's it for this week. We're gonna go out. We're gonna get ourselves some nicely seasoned potato salad.
Paprika, the whole nine.
Yeah, that's right. But no raisins.
Oh Lord, no.
No. So until next week with Office Space. Nerds out.
This has been a non-productive media presentation. Executive producer Frank Kablawi. This program and many others like it on the Non-Productive Network is distributed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial No Derivatives license. Please share it, but ask before trying to change it or sell it. For more information, visit non-productive.com.